Good afternoon, my name is Mr. Cuneo. Today we're going to run through the 2 Spanish verbs for to be. Unlike in English where we have just one verb, in Spanish there are 2, ser and estar. And the one you use depends upon the context of the sentence. Let's take a look at the 2. Let's run through their conjugations. First, ser. I am, yo soy, you are, tú eres. He is, él es. We are, nosotros somos. You guys are, vosotros sois. They are, ellos son. Now let's take a look at estar. I am, yo estoy, you are, tú estás. Notice the accent mark over the A. He is, él está. We are, nosotros estamos. You guys are, vosotros estáis. They are, ellos están. Okay, now the question is, when do we use these verbs? Well, let's first look at a ser. When you're talking about an innate characteristic, the inherent quality of something, you use ser. For example, I can say, soy señor Cuneo, I am Mr. Cuneo. Soy americano, I'm American. Soy maestro de español, I'm a Spanish teacher. Those 3 things are either not going to change or not going to change that easily. Those are innate characteristics. If, however, I were to say something like this, estoy aquí, or now estoy aquí, or estoy aquí. In each one of those instances, I was saying the same thing. I am here, but my location was changing. In that situation, whenever you're talking about location, something that's temporary quality, you use estar. Okay, so ser, we're talking about inherent characteristics, things that don't change that easily. Estar, I'm talking about temporary conditions. The example I use with respect to location. Now location is a tricky one, because you can be talking about things either that move or don't move, but you always use estar. For example, someone can ask me, hey, señor Cuneo, ¿dónde está su casa? Mi casa está por allá. My house is always there. It's not going to move. But because I'm talking about location, I use estar. Another example, someone could come up to me and ask, ¿dónde está la escuela, señor? Where's the school, sir? La escuela está en ese barrio de la ciudad. The school is in that neighborhood of the city. The school is not going anywhere, but because I'm talking about location, I use the verb estar. What other temporary conditions would apply with the verb estar? Well, emotions would be one. For example, estoy cansado, I'm tired. Estoy nervioso, I'm nervous. Estoy relajado, I'm relaxed. Temporary conditions, states of mind, emotions, use the verb estar. Another example. Oftentimes, my students in class están interesados en la lectura. My students are interested in the lecture. Sometimes, mis estudiantes están aburridos. Sometimes they are bored. Either they can be interested or bored. It's a temporary condition. But if I were to say something like, mis estudiantes son inteligentes, I'm talking about their inherent quality of being intelligent. So, a common example would be with the adjective, with the word aburrido. You could say, for example, la clase es aburrida. The class is inherently boring. It's dull. Or I could say, el estudiante está aburrido. I'm not saying the student is inherently boring, I am saying the student is bored. Location can be tricky because sometimes you can talk about a position of something which moves around, or you can be talking about something that's stationary, but you always use the verb estar. there's a similar tricky condition with respect to ser. For example, someone might ask, ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? Ahora son las dos de la tarde. Right now it's 2 in the afternoon. Time, even though time always changes, we use the verb ser. So let's get that down. Discussing time. Another use of the verb ser in discussing possession. For example, ¿De quién es este libro? Este libro es del maestro. This is the teacher's book. ¿De quién es este bolígrafo? Este bolígrafo es del maestro también. This is also teacher's pen. When we discuss possession, or if we were to talk about the innate quality of something, what something's made of. ¿De qué es esta mesa? Esta mesa es de madera. This table is of wood. We use the verb ser. Let's run through some examples together. First, Juan es o está mi primo. What am I trying to say? Juan is my cousin. Is that a temporary situation or a more permanent condition? More permanent. Therefore, we use es, the verb ser. Juan es mi primo. Ignacio es o está católico. Again, is that a temporary condition or something more permanent? It's more permanent, so we use the verb ser. La silla es o está de madera. The chair is made of wood. Is that a temporary condition or something permanent with respect to the chair? Something permanent. Therefore, use the verb ser. ¿Dónde es? ¿Dónde está el baño? Where is the bathroom? We're talking about location. Regardless of whether the bathroom will be moving around or be in one position, because we're talking about location, we use estar. This one is a little bit more involved. Mis estudiantes están cansados después de haber estudiado tanto. What am I trying to say? My students are tired after having studied so much. Is this an inherent characteristic, something that will always be? Are they tiresome? Or rather, a state of being, a state of mind, an emotion, a feeling, a temporary situation? Temporary situation. Therefore we use estar. Mis estudiantes están cansados después de haber estudiado tanto. Finally, pienso que química es o está aburrida. Again, let's look at the meaning. What am I trying to say? I think that chemistry is bored or is boring. Do I think the subject is not interesting? Or am I personifying chemistry and saying that right now it is bored? I'm saying that it is inherently dull for me. Therefore I use ser. Pienso que química es aburrida. There's a final use of the verb ser, which we will discuss today. And that is for general, impersonal statements. And it sort of makes sense. For example, I could say, es necesario, it is necessary that. Es importante que, it is important that. Es obvio que, it is obvious that. A situation that is stable, that is not changing, an obvious situation, an important situation, a necessary condition. Therefore, we would use ser and not estar. Okay, to recap, let's look at these situations in which we use ser. Talking about inherent, innate characteristics, and discussing time, and discussing possession, when discussing what something is made of. And finally, when discussing general impersonal situations. For example, es obvio que, it is obvious that, etc. Estar is used in more temporary situations. For emotions, states of being, feelings, moods. The one tricky point here is with respect to location. Regardless if we're talking about something which is moving and in a particular place at a given time, or something which is stationary and always in the same location, we always use the verb estar. I should mention that there are other instances when we use ser and estar with other verb forms. For example, the passive voice or the present progressive. But that's for a later lesson. Right now, let's leave it at this and conclude the teaching portion with respect to the two verbs to be, ser and estar. And we'll work on some exercises together. There are 3 follow-up activities to this lesson. The first one, each student will fill out the sheet individually, selecting which verb to use in the sentence. After the students are finished and we go through the answers, we will work on an activity where I ask the students these questions in English and they're to respond in Spanish. Finally, once we've gone through these, I will give the students an opportunity to ask one another questions in Spanish, requiring the choice of either estar or ser. And that will conclude today's lesson. Thank you.